Hey there, what's up? It's me, Zodi. It has been a while. And in this tutorial, I'm going to give you a run through on how I wrote the song The Garden with my client, Maria Rose.
I heard you wanna roll up in my garden. You love someday, follow me. Now you're falling in love in the garden. Won't set you free.
So it's been a while since I've uploaded a video to this YouTube channel, and I just want to say that I've been incredibly busy building the K-pop producer Discord community, and we ended up having a meetup in London about a month ago. Not only that, but I've been putting out Girl Crush K-pop tutorials on Cubase's YouTube channel. I have been building a new podcast series designed for musicians and producers who are looking to build a career in music. And I did manage to land a new cut for a brand new anime show called Ninja Mask. Please hit like and subscribe as it helps this channel out. And if you are an artist, manager or brand and would love to work with me, hit me up via the website link below as well. Maria came to me and her goals were very clear. She wanted a very hype, exciting K-pop influenced track, something that could have come from Everglow, maybe KDA, hints of Stray Kids, something that was going to encapsulate that girl crush trap vibe. She also wanted me to infuse classical orchestral elements in the song. I also want to give a big shout out to my collaborator and friend Phil Schwan, who did the mix and master. Just to clarify and to bear in mind, this is a K-pop music production, but with the vocals that are Western. So the first element that I want to talk about is pretty much the first thing you hear, which is the introduction. I wanted the song to effectively just hit so hard because you're always thinking about people skipping through Spotify playlists and whatnot, and you really want to grab attention off the back as the producer. So we have a very powerful kick from Oliver. Absolutely love Oliver. You can grab his stuff on Splice. So kick, and then we got a crash. Then we got this cool kind of bass stab that I got from Splice. And then I added this 808 underneath, but to make it a little bit more interesting, we did a kind of like slide down. Now, the next thing I did is I actually wanted to introduce a bit of a melody here to kind of play into the silence after that initial impact. So what I did is I went to Anna 2, and I absolutely love this. And it's called Brass Knuckles preset. It is under the brass section here, but it's a real kind of synthy, trappy horn that just sounds so aggressive, and layered over the top of an 808, they tend to gel very nicely. So let's have a listen to verse 1 and pay attention to these strings that I created here. So if we just take one of these string layers, for example, all I'm doing is playing the D minor chord, but instead of playing everything together, they're stepping down. The plugin I use for this is from Kontakt. I remember buying this years ago, like I think almost a decade ago, but it's the Signor Paganini solo violin. This is great for much kind of quicker, BPM, faster sort of elements. But this one is fairly cheap. I remember picking it up, I think it was about 30, 40 pounds. But yeah, really good, highly recommend it. Yeah, so let's have a look at this one. This is a very kind of orchestral classical technique, but have a listen to what I did here. The way that the pattern works is you start on the A and you move down a semitone each time. Now the other thing you want to bear in mind with this is it's actually written in triplets. And the reason why I wanted to implement this technique was A, it was orchestral to cater to Maria's requests, but also kind of makes it feel like exciting, dramatic, and a sense of chaos. On its own, this string sounded kind of weak and a little bit thin. So what I did is I stacked it, I just duplicated the layer, and then I got another Kontakt string library, Spitfire Albion. This is like, this is all I use for my strings. It works so well, absolutely love it. And I've set the string to spiccato, which is not quite as harsh as a staccato. As you can hear with this string here, it's very dry and in your face. So what you want to do when you approach layering generally is whatever you're going to layer the main element with, you kind of want to do opposites. So the main layer here that we started with is dry, up front, not much reverb, quite almost a bit more harsher, let's say. So the way that I approached the layering technique for it was to use the string that was softer in the background more, with more kind of wet reverb and delay. And then that way you can create a real nice 3D sense between the strings. You've got one in the front and then you've got one sitting in the background. So to show development of the same idea, I've taken the idea and then just dropped it an octave lower to let it progress a little bit further. And it's just a simple way of showing development to the listener. And that's a random synth. Now regarding the groove of the verse, there was nothing too wild about this. This is a standard sort of trap girl crush beat. The groove is very important, especially because Maria's a dancer. You always have to consider that she's going to be having to create choreography to this, and this translates obviously to K-pop as well. This Oliver kick is huge. The points that I want to exaggerate in the verse are on the downbeat, which is the start here, but also those stabs that are at the end. And then I've got a standard sort of tighter kick, because I felt that if I use the Oliver one here, it may start to dominate and throw the groove off, because there's such a big sort of tail on the kick.
It's too late, now you're in too deep.
Have a listen. So my thinking with the pre-chorus, and this definitely translates to K-pop, you want to write a clear, significant shift between sections. Not only does it keep the song interesting, but when you're pitching songs generally to the A&Rs at the Korean entertainment companies, a lot of them are thinking about the MV and what platform can you provide for the different members and their roles and responsibilities in the group. And a good way to make the section feel different is to purposely go and create a different emotion altogether, but still feel related. So I went for something that was a bit more calm, mellow, hopeful, but also increasing the tension and hype, because pre-choruses and builds, a big part of them is to ramp the listener up, and so they can have the payoff of the chorus when the chorus hits. Let's start with this. And then picks up. Alright, let's dive into the A chorus. Have a listen. So what I did is I took the original idea from verse 1, copied it over, but then developed with extra layers. It's not about ticking one box, you know, with a lot of this. It's about having several smaller boxes ticked to make the whole sound come together. I added this offbeat hey effect. Hey, 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 hey. Nice and simple, very subtle. Brass stabs. Classic girl crush, classic trap stuff. So yet again, the technique of layering. I'm using the Brass Stab Bright with Anna 2. Listen. So this one I layered as the horn that's going to sit in front and the ear's going to hear more of. But then what I did is I stacked it with another one, hitting exactly the same note. Brass Stab Heavy, which is going to be a bit more softer, spacious, and in the background. Kind of like what I explained with the strings. Have a listen. Yeah, it's cool. And then we've got a mid layer, which I believe is some random Serum patch that I have. Lead hybrid. I think I got this from Splice. Have a listen. So that's kind of covering the octave. Now, the next thing I wanted to cover was the B chorus. B chorus is very popular in pop music generally these days, and it's just an extra way of giving people more for their money, so to speak. So have a listen to the A going into the B chorus and listen to the shift and how I switch it up. Yeah, so what I did here was switch up the rhythm. We kind of go into more of a 4 to the floor beat with the kick. And then you've got that kind of bass horn pattern. Da, na, 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 like that. Just to kind of, it just shapes the rhythm differently. It changes the groove a bit differently. And it's obvious, you know, that, oh, this is a different part now. B choruses are generally a good part to implement vocal hooks. So if you listen to the Spotify version, you'll hear that na 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 na. It just gives people something extra to remember after the first listen much quicker.
No matter how hard you try, you can escape my voice, I'd rather shine. And then when you close your eyes.
Let's dive into verse 2. Have a listen. This is probably one of my favorite parts of the song, and I think Maria really enjoyed it as well. She gets to showcase her rap skills, which I don't think she's done before. Generally with K-pop structuring, verse 2 generally is a rap. So as you can see, I put a really aggressive EQ cut on the master. And then halfway through verse 2, I bypass the EQ and reintroduce all those frequencies back in. Let's have a listen. Just really exciting. It sounds really cool. You can hear that hi-hat just driving so fast, and yeah, this is a cool technique as well. If you really want to do like a lot of the trap, Girl Crush, or potentially a lot of Stray Kids writing techniques, if you go in and look at the bass and the horns, it's the choice of notes that I've used that kind of creates that popular sound in Girl Crush and trap, and it's the use of the minor second. Is you want to be able to play around with these minor second intervals. So from D to D sharp, that's very, to me, it reminds me of Stray Kids so much. Yeah, so if you're trying to create your own Girl Crush and trap vibes for K-pop, really aggressive horns playing around the minor seconds, intervals of minor seconds, just works like time and time again. Solid tip there. Alright, let's dive into the bridge. Now this is a very interesting part to the song. Let's have a listen. This part was heavily driven by Maria. Maria is a dancer, knows her stuff, and she really wanted a choreography section for this bridge middle 8 where she was going to create her own dance. Generally, I think with bridges, me and other people, bridges tend to be a little bit, they can be a bit of a throwaway section. I think people sometimes just slap it in there. And I had already put a lot of work into this track and to push me even further. So I appreciated that. And so what we did is we came up with this cool sort of dance break section. So the way that I approached it was to keep the Girl Crush trap vibe going in the low end and the beat, but I still wanted to implement orchestral elements as that's what Maria asked for off the bat. So you can hear it's a kind of contrast of modern electronic kicks, snares and samples mixed with organic orchestral stuff. So what have we got here? So we've got a Chinese gong, which is a Kashmir sample. Like that. And then you can hear I brought in some taiko sticks, which actually increase in dynamic and volume. So that really helps drive the anticipation, the tension and the drama of the part. Like that. Yeah, and as you can see, I bring in the snare halfway to show development. So let's have a listen. A lot of effects filling out that space. This is straight up, if you hear this, this is straight up orchestral, but straight up used in horror movies. I chose the sample because I love horror, but I know from watching so much horror that the composers of those sorts of movies are very good at creating tension and that sense of unease, but also build. So have a listen to this. I ended up using this violin hell. Absolutely love it, but you know, you hear those in horror trailers all the time. I thought it was suited for this. Yeah, and then, yeah, again, the same technique as I mentioned earlier. We had the layers of brass horns, but what I'm doing is I'm playing around with that minor second change in the chords there. So something else that was really interesting that I've never experienced before is actually having direct communication with someone who is a dancer or creates their own choreography like Maria. So one thing that she wanted, which I would have never thought of doing as just a producer by myself, is to create these dramatic pauses in the music, like complete silence. And I was like, well, why do I need to do that? And she goes, because when you're creating choreography and you're a dancer, it's cool to have these dramatic pauses because then you can shape the dance to embellish those silent points in the music. For example, if I cut all the music out, she could strike certain poses that would look really good when all the music cuts out. I would have never thought of doing that as just a producer here in my extra room in my house, right? I've just felt I learned a lot from just having that direct communication with an actual dancer. So a lot went into this bridge dance choreography section. As you can see as well, if you zoom out, no other part of the song is using these samples apart from just the bridge. And that's just another case of where you're just you're going above and beyond with the production here. That's it. Definitely let us know what you think of this tutorial in the comments, and make sure you go check out Maria's music. I'll put a link in the description as well. Please hit like and subscribe as it helps this channel out. And if you are an artist, manager or brand and would love to work with me, hit me up via the website link below as well. Thanks so much. I hope it was useful. Take care.
I heard you wanna roll up in my garden. You like some